A Galveston summer camp now turning into a COVID-19 hotspot with over 160 kids infected this evening. But what's the danger from the Delta variant for programs in the Brazos Valley? We'll explain. Plus, it's been 5 years since a lone gunman ambushed and killed 5 Dallas police officers. Today, a community gathers to honor their fallen. We've got the latest.
And we've had a few showers across the Brazos Valley today. Other parts of the Lone Star State getting a lot of rain, and we're going to have the rain chances hanging around through the weekend. I have your forecast coming up, but your 25 news starts right now.
Connecting the Brazos Valley, this is KRHD News.
Good evening and thanks for having us in your homes tonight. I'm Hallie Jones. Our big story tonight, the Delta variant bringing threat to summer camps across Texas. This as over 160 kids in Galveston left infected with the mutation. Tonight, KRHD reporter Rachel Esbayat finds out what danger lurks out there for summer programs in the Brazos Valley.
Sovac City Summer Camp had a seamless transition into the COVID season because of the safety protocols they already had in place.
Kids as young as 8 years old put their sewing skills to the test at the week-long summer program in College Station.
It builds confidence, something that's easy for them to do and allows them to grow and hopefully learn to love sewing.
Since the craft comes with some danger, safety has always been a top priority at Sovac City.
You're working with young kids and sewing machines, so you watch everything as you go. So it's just to keep everybody safe, even with just the mechanical things that we're using.
So protocols like cleaning up in between sessions and keeping students spread out continues to come in handy through the pandemic.
We were already doing all that. So that is just our normal policy. So we've always been very conscientious about health and environment.
You want to be careful. We still wipe down all of our surfaces. You know, we've always tried to keep everything clean.
So kids can have fun and stay healthy in their creative space at this sewing camp.
Sovac City offers classes for people of all ages throughout the year. In College Station, Rachel Esbayat, KRHD News.
And as we mentioned before, nearly 160 COVID-19 cases have been linked to a church camp in Galveston. Health officials first said just 125 people were involved, but released new numbers Tuesday night. More than 450 adults and teens attended the Clear Creek Community Church Camp in June. Now officials say hundreds more could have been exposed after the infected people went home.
We're actively doing investigation. We're asking people to stay home. The church has canceled its service for this week, and so that way people won't be coming together and then potentially spread it even more.
6 so-called breakthrough cases have been tied to the outbreak, meaning vaccinated people have tested positive. At least one of those infections involved the more contagious Delta variant. And speaking of the Delta variant, the strain now accounts for more than half of all new cases in the United States. That's according to estimates from the CDC. It estimates the variant, first seen in India, accounts for nearly 52% of new infections in the U.S. The Alpha variant, that was dominated for months, now accounts for 29% of cases. And the CDC says the Gamma variant, which has dominated in Brazil, now accounts for about 9% of cases in the U.S. Right now, the Texas Department of State Health Services says over 5.5% of all COVID cases come from the Delta variant. That's up 27% from last week's total cases. And just how bad is the threat from the Delta variant? Well, the CDC says a recent study shows 85% of Delta variant patients require hospitalizations. Meanwhile, a new study shows changes to resting heart rate and sleep may last for months in people who have been infected with COVID. Researchers used wearable biometric trackers like a Fitbit to look at almost 900 people. Among them, 234 participants who tested positive for COVID-19, elevated resting heart rates did not return to normal until some 80 days after the onset of symptoms. And 13% of the COVID-positive patients' elevated heart rates persisted for more than 4.5 months. The disease also appears to impact sleep duration. And And it's been over 4 years since the deadliest mass shooting in Texas happened in Sutherland Springs. Today, a federal court finds most of the blame lands on the U.S. Air Force in the attack that took the lives of 26 churchgoers. A federal judge says the Air Force has 60% responsibility for the church shooting in November 2017. The court says the military failed to follow established gun restriction laws. The judge criticizing the failure of the system, saying in court documents Kelly should not have been able to purchase the firearms he used in the shooting. Negligent failures by the government to collect, handle, and report required information about Kelly allowed him to do so.
Let this be a reminder, particularly as we stand here on the 5th anniversary of 7/7, that we will never forget.
And today marks the 5-year anniversary of an armed ambush that took the lives of 5 Dallas police officers. Today, the law enforcement community gathering to honor those who paid the ultimate sacrifice. During a protest on July 7, 2016, Micah Xavier Johnson opened fire on the crowd. Officers scrambled to secure the scene and protesters ran for cover. Johnson shot and killed 5 officers with several long guns. The department gathered today to remember their brothers in blue. Officials saying today those officers killed in the line of duty saved lives that day, putting themselves between the gunmen and protesters fleeing for safety. The Dallas police chief recalling the moments that gripped the nation over 4 years ago.
I remember where I stood, not sat, but stood in my living room as the horrific events unfolded. And I wept. I can assure you, Dallas, you were not alone that day. And not alone today.
The service included a performance by the Dallas Police Choir, a 21-gun salute, taps, and a flyover by the Dallas Police helicopter. Well, it's back to the Capitol for Texas lawmakers this week, the 2021 July special session taking on some of the most controversial issues across the state. Tonight, 25 News reporter Leah McNeil from her sister station KXXV is in Austin tonight with a look ahead.
Border security, election integrity, LGBTQ sports, and critical race theory are just a few of the items on this upcoming special session agenda. Governor Abbott using this special session to target hot topics, many of which gaining national attention, catapulting Texas into the spotlight. Dr. Patrick Flavin, professor of political science at Baylor University, says many folks are paying close attention to election integrity, highlighted in Senate Bill 7, many calling it one of the most restrictive voting bills in the country. Texas Democrats staging a walkout to prevent a vote on this bill, prompting Governor Abbott to suspend their pay. But Flavin says there still must be a compromise.
There is some room for negotiation. Democrats, of course, aren't going to get everything they want. They're the minority party in the House and the Senate. And so sort of their best chance is to try to sort of tweak things around the margins.
The majority of the agenda items have strong opinions on both sides of the aisle, but there are some issues that did not make it on the agenda. Dr. Flavin says the winter storm and the state's power grid is something of concern for Democrats and Republicans, some saying this should have been on the agenda instead of social media censorship. Political analysts say it's expected that there will undoubtedly be some heated debates surrounding many of the hot ticket items. Reporting in Austin, Leah McNeil, KRHD News.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott putting out what's on the agenda tomorrow and what's not. The governor laying out 11 of what he calls priority issues for the special session, including things like election integrity, border security, social media censorship, transgender youth sports, and critical race theory in Texas public schools, to name a few. This comes as state Democrats walked out May 31st on a vote for requiring ID for upcoming elections. The governor responded by suspending pay for lawmakers and their staff, something added to tomorrow's special session agenda. Well, the prices at the pump continue their steady climb as summer travel is in full swing. AAA reports crude oil prices will hit a 7-year high this week. The national gas price average is expected to increase to $3.25 this month. Unfortunately, it's not going to stop there. AAA expects gas prices to rise another 10 to 20 cents through the end of August. The last time the national average of gas prices was at $3.25 was November and October 2014, respectively. And College Station still doing well. GasBuddy.com shows an average of $2.79 a gallon in the Brazos Valley, compared to Chicago's gas average of over $3.50. But Los Angeles getting hammered. The average gallon of gas coming in at $4.32 a gallon to fill up. She's here. The first major storm of hurricane season made landfall today. The East Coast getting ready for some rain. We take a look at what kind of damage Tropical Storm Elsa is leaving behind. May data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics shows we're still in a worker shortage. The agency's numbers show there was a 9.2 million job openings in May, about the same as in April. Meanwhile, employers only hired 5.9 workers, leaving a large gap between labor supply and demand. It comes as the number of people leaving jobs fell by nearly 500,000. And as people start going out more, many are spending more money on looking good. According to the analytics by Nielsen IQ, in May, people spent 20% more money on makeup and teeth whitening kits than they did a year ago. Another report by MasterCard found that spending at wig stores went up by 75% in the same time period, and spending on curling irons and perfumes are also up. The stock market may have been a roller coaster at times during the pandemic, but now companies that actually run roller coasters are seeing a bounce in their share price. Theme park owner Six Flags has seen its stock shoot up to almost 25% this year, and it has more than doubled in the past 12 months. In an attempt to attract more customers, Subway is making changes to its menu. The company says come next week, customers will see new and old items on the menu. The multi-grain and Italian breads will now taste different because of a new recipe. Those who missed ordering the rotisserie-style chicken and roast beef will now be able to do so again. To mark the changes, Subway will be giving away up to 1 million free sandwiches July 13th from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Well, it's anchors away for the ship caught blocking the Suez Canal back in March. That comes after a settlement was reached with the Egyptian government. No details on the settlement were given. The authority originally demanded over $900 million for salvage efforts and lost revenue. It later lowered the request to $550 million. And that's a live look at Tropical Storm Elsa as it makes its way across the Florida-Georgia state line tonight. Residents across the eastern seaboard ready for high winds and heavy rains. This after the first major storm of the season made it ashore earlier today. Tropical Storm Elsa making landfall on North Florida's Gulf Coast earlier today, battering the area with heavy rain, flooding, and wind damage. Tens of thousands of people are without power. But although Elsa is over land, the storm is predicted to pack a punch as it moves up the eastern seaboard over the next several days.
Well, good evening, Brazos Valley. Talking about temperatures in the upper 80s. Still cool for July, but you factor in the humidity, feels like the mid-90s. So still kind of a sticky evening out there, one that you're going to be having to deal with that humidity. And maybe a few showers as well. Radar showing you there's not much out there, though. Only a few of these isolated showers in place. We will still see the chance of them, at least through the early part of the evening. By the later parts, though, notice these rain chances starting to taper on off. Temperatures will be in the upper 70s by around 9 o'clock. Future Track shows you those rain showers get on out of here as sunset goes. Then we get into the overnight hours. Things should be quiet. Tomorrow, though, in the afternoon, we'll once again see that chance of a few of those pop-up showers and thunderstorms. About a 40 to 50% chance for tomorrow. I think low pressure is going to be closer to us than it was today. Then we get into Friday, and Friday we're going to keep those rain chances around too. By the time we head into Saturday, we think we're going to dry out a little bit, but then another system tries to come in from the north. That system from the north is going to keep the rain chances around as we start off the new week, keeping those isolated rain chances around. There are some signs, though, we may start to dry out as we head into the start of the new week, or at least into the second half of next week, which means we may finally be able to get out of this pattern we've been stuck in. Tropical Storm Elsa made landfall earlier today along the Florida coastline. It's going to be moving up the eastern seaboard. Not a factor in our weather, but it will bring isolated tornadoes, gusty winds, and lots of rainfall to the East Coast. Keep that in mind if you are traveling. Tonight, down into the lower 70s and upper 60s, and then tomorrow we're back into the mid 80s. 10-day forecast Shows you we're going to be at 86 tomorrow, 83 coming up on Friday with a 50% chance of rain, 89 on Saturday. We continue through the rest of the week on into the new week. Here comes those temperatures in the low 90s, and the rain chance is starting to taper off. An isolated chance of rain through Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We'll hope that means things can dry out, but for now, looks like those rain chances are going to be hanging around.
Many states are offering incentives to get people vaccinated against COVID-19. In some places, the incentives are working out, but others are struggling. Arkansas has one of the lowest vaccination rates in the country, despite offering several incentives. That includes giving out scratch-off lottery tickets and gift certificates from the Game and Fish Commission. But the state has admitted that those giveaways just aren't working. Experts say Arkansas needs to figure out what really does persuade people to get vaccinated. For some, it's not always material rewards.
People are already feeling uncertain if a vaccine is entirely safe and entirely effective and really important. It's possible that they'll look at something like a small token incentive as a kind of payment and then think, I don't know if my sense of uncertainty can be bought with something that has a $20 value.
Another thing that may prevent people from getting the vaccine is logistics. Some parents may be worried about childcare, not only when they're getting a vaccine, but also days after the shot if they experience side effects. Others may not have transportation to a vaccination site. In these cases, it may be a better option to offer more functional or useful incentives.
Some of those folks are persuaded by having access at their workplace, by having time off while they get it, and making it as easy as possible to access.
But experts warn whether it's about coronavirus or another illness, there will always be a group of people who are just not motivated to get vaccinated. Ultimately, it's best for public health officials to find the root of people's concerns about the shot before coming up with an incentive plan. Around 2.5 million COVID vaccines have arrived in Pakistan. This story starts the news feed. They're part of the UN-backed COVAX initiative. These are among the first vaccine donations from the U.S. to arrive in South Asia. There are currently more than 31,000 active cases of COVID-19 in the country. South Korea is entering its fourth wave of COVID-19. The country's health ministry says 1,200 new cases were reported across the country on Tuesday alone. 20 to 30-year-olds are currently the most infected age group. Sydney, Australia goes into lockdown today for a third straight week. Officials say the city remains vulnerable with a largely unvaccinated population. The lockdown extended to July 16th. It means most children will not return to school next week following a mid-year school break. U.S. courts are currently dealing with more than 500 criminal cases linked to the January attack on the Capitol. One of those involves the FBI infiltrating a so-called Bible study group in Virginia. That's according to the newly released court documents. The FBI identified a member of that group that was at the Capitol on January 6th, and agents went undercover. They say at meetings, the group discussed things like homemade bombs, combat training, and surveilling the Capitol. Dollar General is hiring a new chief medical officer ahead of becoming a healthcare destination in rural areas. Customers can expect to see more health products on store shelves, like dental supplies and cold medicines. According to Dollar General CEO, customers in these areas were asking for more affordable healthcare products. An executive order is expected from the White House that will change how some work in the meat industry. Ultimately, it would give farmers more power to negotiate sales and sue big meat processors if they think something isn't fair. It's an issue that's gone back and forth over the years. You'll get a different answer depending on who you ask as to which approach is better. But either way, it could have an impact on supply and prices in an industry still dealing with disruptions and volatility, largely from the pandemic.
It has certainly revealed the complexity of these supply chains, I think, and we're much more aware of that. Maybe that's a good thing long term.
The White House is also expected to encourage the Federal Trade Commission to give farmers more flexibility in repairing tractor equipment. Right now, they're limited in using independent repair shops or repairing it on their own. The White House is also expected to tell the USDA to review meat labels and what can say product of USA. Some livestock is born in other countries, mainly Canada and Mexico, but brought to the U.S. to feed or directly for slaughter. Those are currently labeled USA products because they are processed here, as is imported meat that is turned into an entirely different product here in the U.S. Agricultural economist Daryl Peel says anytime there is a change, it comes with cost.
So in order to be able to label those at all the way through the system, it essentially means that those products, those animals initially, and then later the products have to be kept segregated. So they have to be fed separately, they have to be processed separately. And then, of course, everybody along the way has got to track all that information.
Peel points out the label rule changes may not even cover what's sold to food service, which is where more than half the meat supply goes. Past meat labeling law changes were eventually overturned after the World Trade Organization ruled against them. Past research shows a majority of consumers didn't know the law was in place, and where meat comes from matters less than price or quality. As several industries face labor shortages, there's been an 18% increase from March to June of companies offering hiring bonuses.
So this is really staggering, and it shows that employers are having real trouble hiring workers and are trying to pull out all the stops.
ZipRecruiter says they typically don't see even a whole 1% increase in hiring bonuses from month to month, but it seems to be working so far. There has been an uptick in applications for jobs offering this.
And it works more than doing other things like saying that your job is urgent, or trying to encourage people in other ways by talking about how great your need is and how you would hire them immediately.
But signing bonuses are temporary and often don't get paid out up front. Employers usually include these as part of your paycheck over several months.
And that allows employers a bunch of leverage over, workers' conditions at their job, because, that $500 or $1,000, whatever the signing bonus may be, is kind of hanging in the balance. So workers will kind of do whatever it takes to stick around, or think about doing whatever it takes to stick around, even if job conditions are poor.
The Economic Policy Institute says hiring bonuses in no way substitute for higher wages. Research has shown the bonuses make employees stay with the company longer. ZipRecruiter even says in the past they have seen job postings go back up months after being taken down. In other words, the time it took to pay out the bonus. But in this case, a temporary fix may be all that's needed.
They're betting that in a couple of months at the end of the summer, around about fall, when schools reopen, vaccination rates are higher, COVID continues to wane, and the unemployment benefits, the expanded enhanced unemployment benefits expire, that people will flood back into the labor market.
It's also important to note that because hiring bonuses are a part of your paycheck, you will be taxed on them. So you won't actually be getting the full amount of money advertised. But if the labor market does go into the direction ZipRecruiter is predicting, companies could stop offering them in the fall.
After announcing plans to come to Bryan this year, MetroNet says they will build a 100% fiber optic network for the citizens of College Station. KRHD reporter Rebecca Fiedler spoke with the internet provider about their plans to bring high-speed internet to the Brazos Valley.
MetroNet is bringing fiber optic broadband internet to the Aggieland community with up to 10 gigabit speed for businesses and residents.
For years, the main provider of internet, phone, and cable service for the BCS community has been the company Suddenlink. Now, Indiana-based business MetroNet has announced its premiere in College Station and Bryan as a new option for many Brazos County residents.
We're coming in and we're bringing in all brand new infrastructure at no cost to the citizens of College Station nor Bryan. And what we're doing is we're bringing in a true fiber optic connection, a true fiber optic line into every home and every business that wants it. What that means is the broadband speeds that we are going to be able to provide are world-class.
Representatives with MetroNet explain that it may take time for the company to reach Brazos County's more rural communities, but such a feat is possible.
MetroNet will establish a physical office space in the local area, and the company aims to service the cities of Bryan and College Station starting in the fall of next year. Reporting in College Station, Rebecca Fiedler, KRHD News. A national study launched earlier this spring on the Texas A&M campus is now reaching out to the community for help. The Prevent COVID U study is trying to reveal how effective the vaccine is, especially for asymptomatic cases. The study has seen more than 700 participants, but it is now looking to expand their pool. They're looking for at least 2,000 unvaccinated participants between the ages of 18 and 29 with no university affiliation needed.
We're trying to appeal to that sense of being part of something big and contributing to the science. There is a monetary compensation. So I mentioned that participants were going to be doing this for 4 months.
Head on over to krhdnews.com for more information about this study. Many people are thinking of buying a new home to avoid the bidding wars for existing homes already on the market this year. But as our John Matarese explains, that's not always a sure bet, so you don't waste your money.
We've been hearing about soaring home prices for months now, so some buyers are thinking of having a home built instead. But that may no longer be an affordable option. Frustrated with trying to find an existing home, Clayton Martis decided to hire a builder.
Yeah, we thought we'd build, give it about a year, we'll take time.
It's working for him, but not for Jason Reeves, who just has a lot filled with dirt and weeds.
There's going to be a walkout on the left-hand side down here.
That was supposed to become his family's dream home.
And the final contract was finalized on March 25th.
But just as this bulldozer arrived to start work, his builder had some bad news.
And they asked us for $75,000 more to build our house.
In this neighborhood of $600,000 homes. Why? Soaring lumber prices that have nearly doubled this year. This is happening to more and more families this year who are having a home built. You agree upon a price, sign the contract, builder says everything's great, and then he says, we're going to need a lot more money. Jason and his wife are now backing out of the deal, but the builder wants to keep $17,000 of their deposit. An attorney for the builder told us $12,000 is for architectural plans, which the Reeves get to keep, and $5,000 is for administrative costs outlined in the contract. Jason has hired a lawyer of his own to plan his next steps. But this is a caution to anyone building a home right now. Be prepared for price increases, possibly major price increases.
My wife is heartbroken. I take it a little better than she does. For her, it's just a nightmare.
If you're signing a builder contract, make sure you know whether the price is locked in or can escalate so you don't waste your money. I'm John Matarese, 25 News.
Former President Trump says he's going to sue Facebook, Twitter, and Google. He claims that he was wrongfully censored by the tech giants. Both Twitter and Facebook suspended Trump's account following the January 6th insurrection at the Capitol. The three companies have declined comment. Well, topping the news feed, the Pentagon is pulling the plug on a contract it had with Microsoft surrounding cloud services. This comes amid a dispute led by Amazon, which claimed the deal was politically motivated. The Pentagon now says multiple companies could be contracted for these services. Well, days after the biggest ransomware attack on record, President Biden says damage to U.S. businesses impacted appears minimal. Reportedly, fewer than 1,500 businesses worldwide were compromised. A group is raising concerns about YouTube's content. The Mozilla Foundation asked more than 3,700 YouTube users to act as watchdogs. It soon discovered the video platform's recommendation algorithm suggested videos with misinformation, violence, and hate speech. A YouTube spokesman says the company has cracked down significantly on harmful video. Well, littering and pollution doesn't just come from careless people. It can be the result of inadequate infrastructure. Alexa Liakho is in one city where trash is piling up with nowhere to go.
The Mojave Desert is home to the largest wind farm in the country. Billions of dollars spinning above the sand, an investment in a greener future. But underneath these turbines sits a community that could use a little investment of its own.
It's hard to not notice the trash that lays around town.
Picking up trash isn't Joyce Nash's job.
And you can see there's a hot water heater.
But over the years, it's become her job.
I didn't expect it to be. The trash matters to me personally because I live here. I love this community. It's my home.
Each week, she watches the trash near her Central California home pile high.
It's a matter of not enough receptacles and having trash receptacles that just aren't appropriate for where we live and how we need to use them.
But more than the overflowing cans, it's the trash laying all over town.
You can end up with like meat containers.
The city's only park is full of it.
I definitely see kitchen trash.
And Joyce can't help but think this isn't just a people problem.
And it's frustrating to see my home be dismissed as, oh, they're just poor people who don't care enough. The problem is that we're overwhelmed, and this is more than what we can handle ourselves.
She says it's infrastructure.
We think about roads and bridges as being the first types of infrastructure, but trash is one of those things that's like kind of a building block of society. But when it's not handled well, you see it impacting everything.
But for those in charge of the trash infrastructure, they say there are enough garbage bins. It's human behavior making a messy town.
There are all kinds of infrastructure in place and programs in place to help clean these things up and make sure it never gets to be a problem. The problem comes from people not using them.
But the biggest piece is infrastructure, and experts say it's all about making these more accessible, adding more trash cans to parks, city streets, and neighborhoods.
I think it's got to be all of these different elements coming together. So having, the option for another pickup that didn't cost an arm and a leg, making these things more accessible, easier to utilize, I think could go a long way.
And soon help will be on the way. The county passed an ordinance to send cleanup crews to pick up illegally dumped trash and get people who don't have regular trash pickup on a scheduled route.
And we just hope that by cleaning it, people will see a better environment, a better everything, and that more people will go, I kind of like this. I'm going to make sure that that stays that way.
But in the meantime, Joyce says this is where she'll be in her free time.
We all have to come together, and we do both our individual part and also our part as a society.
Because making her neighborhood a little bit cleaner is worth every tiny improvement, even if it's not as easy as it could be.
I'll just take this home with me, I guess.
I'm Alexa Liacco reporting.
Well, good evening, Brazos Valley. Talking about temperatures have been in the 80s and the 90s today. Radar is showing you things are quieter than yesterday, but we're still keeping those rain chances around through the evening. About a 20% chance as we go through the evening. By the time we head past 10 o'clock, though, things will really start to dry out. Future Track shows you that as we continue through the night. The clouds will build back in by the time you wake up in the morning. Then we get into the afternoon, and we'll once again see this chance of some pop-up showers and thunderstorms. We'll call it about a 40 to 50% chance for your Thursday afternoon. Friday, we start off with clouds again, and then Friday in the afternoon, once again, we'll see the chance of showers and thunderstorms moving in from the south. And it keeps going from there. All the way into the weekend, we keep the rain chances around. Notice this green just does not get out of here. We try to get it out as we head into the weekend, but then once our system from the south moves out of the way, one from the north tries to move in, that's going to keep things unsettled as we start off the new week, and taking us through the week, we'll keep the rain chances around. There are some signs, though, we could start to dry out by the end of next week, and that's when those temperatures may start to return to normal with mid-90s back in the forecast. Upper 60s, lower 70s tonight. It will be cool by July standards, and then tomorrow back into the mid-80s. Keep in mind, normal this time of year is 94, so we're talking about temperatures that are 10 degrees below normal. Still with the humidity, it'll feel like it's in the mid-90s. Bit of a cool down Friday with all the moisture in place. Lower 80s, upper 80s Saturday, low 90s Sunday. We'll stay in those upper 80s, low 90s all the way through the week, with maybe things drying out as we head into next weekend. We'll cross our fingers. We could use a break from this rain right now.
Mortgage applications have hit their lowest levels since before the pandemic. This story tops the news feed. The Mortgage Bankers Association says these applications dropped 1.8% last week. Mortgage applications to refinance a home dropped 2% for the week and were 8% lower than a year ago. Well, customer service is paying off for Chick-fil-A. For the 7th year straight, the fast food chain is rated at first place. According to the American Customer Satisfaction Index, Chick-fil-A beat out all full-service restaurants listed in the survey. McDonald's came in last place. American Airlines says it flew 3 times as many passengers over the July 4th holiday compared to last year. The carrier reports 2.7 million travelers between July 1st and July 5th of this year. American Airlines also operated twice the number of flights. Tennessee is paying tourists to visit. The governor announced the offer in a video with country star Brad Paisley. The first 10,000 people that book 2 nights at hotels in one of the 4 major cities will get a $250 airline voucher. The website is TennesseeOnMe.com to claim. Some other legislatures weren't happy with the promotion because it uses state funding and is limited to 4 cities. Well, across the country, the amount of people going through airport security is nearing pre-pandemic numbers. Chris Stewart looks at the demand that is also rising for airline workers to keep up with the recovery.
On many trips, this is what makes the journey worthwhile.
I'm always amazed that when I'm just at the airports waiting to pick up someone that I know, just seeing so many different people being gathered in one single place for so many different reasons.
It is these moments that Paul Belliando cannot wait to make happen.
My passion has always been aviation. I knew from the age of 5 years old that I wanted to be a pilot.
He's a student at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Daytona Beach, Florida. One of the top places to learn if your dream is to fly. A passion the pandemic grounded for many.
At the beginning, I'm not going to lie, it was a little bit disheartening. It was like, wow, I worked really hard to get this point, and it's almost like kind of at a standstill.
Last summer, Bloomberg reported 400,000 jobs had been lost at airlines worldwide. But now it appears the industry is moving beyond those turbulent times.
Getting back to doing what they were born to do. It's an exciting time for them.
Embry-Riddle professor Kenneth Burns says they have programs that provide pilots to nearly every major airline.
Companies I'm talking to looking at 500 pilots between now and December.
Along with those in the cockpit, airlines are looking to fill positions to meet the demand of an industry seeing travelers again. Over the next decade, it's projected the amount of flight attendants will increase by more than 20,000. Jobs where the median pay is about $60,000 a year.
I know a lot of people were a bit pessimistic, but I always kept a positive attitude. I knew, like everything, that COVID was temporary.
Beyond coronavirus, a wave of retirements is expected to boost the demand.
Obviously, don't want people to retire out, but at the same time, it kind of brings like a new wave, new generation of pilots and everything too.
Travel has yet to fully get back to where it was before the pandemic, but you can see this industry gaining its power again, not just by the long lines, but the arrivals. Now that life for many isn't at as much of a distance.
And I think it's kind of magical in some sense that aviation brings everyone together and allows everyone to kind of go do different things. In one single flight, there are so many people doing different things.
Airlines are putting in more effort to increase diversity of its pilots. This year, United Airlines says it is aiming for half its students at its new pilot training academy to be women or people of color by 2030. Currently, 94% of airline pilots are white. That's according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. For decades, a series of books was bought by millions and considered literally life-saving by many in the past. Yet many in the country have never even heard of these books. Forrest Sanders speaks to a woman who's making it her life's work to document the story of these books as their reach touches every community in the country.
There are so many old vacation memories recorded in the time of 1948 to 1951. As ads encouraged families to go out on the road and explore America.
Travel this year the roads to romance, to places you've always wanted to go.
But thinking back on these years of unprecedented opportunity to experience the country, someone had questions. How did black families travel during a time of sundown towns?
And sundown towns were all white communities, and if you were caught there after sundown, there could be severe consequences and even death. My innocent question was, if there's all these sundown towns, what did the black people do? Looking back at vacation history and marketing, there's white folks at the beach, and you never see black people in any of these images, and there's a reason for that.
At night, going through unfamiliar towns so far from home, where did these families stay? How did they know if they were in a sundown town There have been many stops in answering these questions for writer and photographer Candace Taylor. And today, the questions have led her here. Atlanta, Georgia, Auburn Avenue.
That's the original sign, but there was also funeral home was underneath here. I love these photographs. And then we're heading into the chapel. We're at Hoggebrook's funeral home, but now it is just called Hoggebrook's because it's an art space.
There's an important history to Hoggebrook's as one of the original sites to be featured in the Green Book.
Everything from drugstores, banks, anything you might need on the road was in the Green Book. And it was like a black yellow pages. Most black families spent weeks preparing for a road trip. You'd pick up a Green Book, you'd have to go through and figure out places of where you wanted to stay. This was the Jim Crow era in general, but the Green Book started publication in 1936 and it lasted through 1967. There is something visceral about being in a space that's tied to this history. And it's always almost like a spiritual experience for me.
Candace's work, photographing and writing about the Green Book sites, is a project of rare ambition.
I've cataloged over 10,000 Green Book sites. I've scouted 6,000. Right now I'm on the road doing the remaining scouting of the 4,000.
Part of Candace's work is in her book, Overground Railroad, where she details original Green Book sites like the Rossonian in Denver, Colorado, the Hampton House Resort in Miami, Florida, and the Regal Hotel in Los Angeles, California. Its work being archived at the Library of Congress and being used for both an exhibition with the Smithsonian and a mobile app Candace is developing. She's telling the story of the black family on those unfamiliar roads in the Jim Crow era.
This feels like my life's work. I think we've lost our way in terms of understanding how race and racism have led to where we are today. I felt like it's even more important that we tell this story now and we look at this history through the lens of the Green Book. I don't know where this ends, but I know that it's important and I feel like it's bigger than me at this point.
In Atlanta, Georgia, I'm Forrest Sanders.
Thanks for joining us for Krhd News at 6. Be sure to tune in to our next broadcast at 10. I'll see you then.